the cognitive awareness, easy for me to say, the cognitive codex, and we're going to be talking about awareness. Now, for those of you who are part of the mastermind or would like to see what it's like to be inside of the mastermind, tomorrow, Saturday morning, 8 a.m., bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, we're going to have a kind of an in-depth getting started conversation. And this is part of the 13-month program, actually, you're a part of. And we're going to be helping you get your DMP in place, your definite major purpose in place. So it's open for everyone. This will be, there'll be from time to time some events you can invite guests to for them to experience the mastermind and what it is we talk about. Now, I want you to become prepared tomorrow to do some talking and not telling long stories about things. I want you to talk about your awareness. I want you to talk about your goal setting. And what you'll find is that there's going to be a lot of mental toughness that's going to be needed, that you'll adapt and adopt. And what I mean by mental toughness is you're going to end delusional thinking. You may hear some responses that might seem, dare I say, threatening, but they're not threatening. What they are threatening to is your old story and your old stuckness. So we'll get more into that tomorrow. So I'm excited about that. Get that kicked off, get that going. And there's still time to join at the Insider, the misfit price, because each month over the course of the next 12 months, it'll be going up $1,000 a month. So just FYI, throwing that out at you. Today's conversation about awareness. Yesterday, we talked about the formula. How many of you paid attention to your formula yesterday? Drop an F in the chat if you paid attention to your formula yesterday, right? C squared, cognitive codex. Then A cubed, awareness cubed, right? Did you pay attention? And inside of the school community is the conversation in a workbook. Today's workbook is already up inside the school community. So if you're not familiar with that, go to Sean School, SeanSkool.com. All right. So understanding that today we've talked about C squared F, right? The cognitive codex formula, A cubed plus FEAR, focus, emotion, action, repeat. So we're breaking free from patterns that keep us stuck. That's all success is breaking free from patterns that keep us stuck. The challenge is that these patterns are wired in. These patterns are in what are known as a scotoma. Anyone familiar with what a scotoma is? A scotoma is a blind spot. And when we start to become aware of our blind spots, if you've ever been driving, and usually it's that back right-hand corner, or maybe right up next to the left hand, the car is already right next to the car. The mirror doesn't see it. You don't see it. Usually it's that back right-hand corner. For those of you in our European markets, it would be your back left-hand corner because your wheel's on the other side. But it's that thing you start to merge over. How many of you drop a B in the chat? If you started to merge over and somebody beeped their horn at you, drop a B in the chat. When you understand that, when you see that that's something that it's common, it's not unheard of, you can become aware of the fact that this idea that this scotoma exists, this blind spot exists, that's important for you to understand. Okay? And so if blind spot exists, if they exist in our driving capability and capacity, have you ever thought about the blind spots that exist in your real world, in your mental toughness, in your understanding? So that's going to be kind of what we talk about today, is using our awareness to help us understand our blind spot. So write down on your paper, blind spots. So Awareness is non-negotiable. And when we finally decide that we are going to become aware, fully aware, you start to allow your brain, the neuroplasticity of your brain. Oh, you mean awareness happens through our brain? I'd venture to ask, tell me what in your life does not happen through your brain. There's not a single thing that does not, even habitual actions, even when you look like you're running in your sleep, that's happening through your brain. Everything is happening inside your brain. So when you truly understand that your life is about the results, it's about the habits, it's about the beliefs. What is your belief about becoming successful? If I were to ask your spouse, what would their belief be about your success? Because I can promise you it's running through your head. If you've had a previous marriage and I were to ask them now, listen carefully, this may hurt a little. If I were to talk to your previous marriage, previous relationship, and ask them about what they thought about your success, what would they say? Well, I don't really, they don't influence me. Oh, ye of so little faith. How many of you believe that our thoughts can influence our day? Drop a T in the chat if you believe our thoughts can influence our day. How many of you believe that somebody else's thoughts? Drop OT, others' thoughts. Others' thoughts can influence our day. How many of you believe other people's thoughts can influence our day? So do you realize whatever thoughts your ex is having, your previous relationship is having, they influence you? Maybe to a small amount, but they could be enough of a spark to start the fire of doubt. How many of you just went, oh, crap? Well, that's possible, right? Jim Rohn said it this way. If your worst enemy comes by your table, you're sitting out at a nice little cafe in France, drinking an amazing cup of coffee, and you happen to turn around and your worst enemy comes by and drops sugar in your coffee. What do you got? You got some sugar with coffee with sugar in it. What if your best friend is sitting across from you and puts a drop of cyanide in your coffee? What do you got? The moral of the story is your mind needs guarded. The best way to guard your mind is to have your vision in place, your definite major purpose in place. If you don't stand for something, what do they say? What's the rest of that? You'll fall for anything. So now the question becomes, how do I become independent of the thoughts of others? You have to turn up your volume. This is why every educator, every teacher, every coach, every mentor says the most powerful way to arrive at your destination is to have a white, hot, burning desire. Most of you have intellectualized your goals. Do they make you jump out of bed? Do they make you fall asleep easily and effortlessly like you're dreaming on a pillow? If you're still falling asleep and you got struggle and stress, you are not in your highest calling. You'll get there. It's not a difficult thing. But I would encourage you to pay attention to the realities. The delusional thinking needs to stop. And that happens through awareness. Because otherwise, if you're truly unaware, what happens? If you're truly unaware, what happens? You get stuck in a loop. How many of you have ever experienced a friend who had a loop in their life? So it's not about noticing what's happening. It's about seeing the truth behind what's happening. How many of us, oh, it's raining, but we really need the rain. It's changing the way you look at things so the things you look at change. This idea that this idea that you're aware needs to go to the next level. It really needs to go to the next level. And when it does, you'll be excited to get there. You might be fearful in the beginning, but the first part of it is knowing that, looking at the loop. How many of us have ever known somebody to constantly procrastinate on starting a project? Procrastination is their middle name. On the surface, it looks lazy or even bad time. How many of us have ever said, I need to get better at time management? You can't manage time. So write down time management. Write down time management. Do the universal circle around it and a line through it. And then write energy management. Energy management. No longer will you pay attention to time management. You'll have a calendar and a schedule and stuff like that. But it's almost foolish to think you can manage time. You can manage your energy in time. So on the surface, this procrastination looks like laziness, looks like bad time management. But with awareness, you might uncover a belief if you really do what's called facilitated introspection. And that's all I'm trying to get you to do. I can't help you reach your goals. My goal is to help you undo what's keeping you from reaching your goals. But I still can't reach your goals. I can't go lift your weights for you. I can't swim your laps for you. I can't make your phone calls for you. I can't lift up your keyboard and type in your posts for you. But I can help you uncover what's keeping you from doing it. So what if you have a belief that says, if I start and fail, it'll prove I'm not good enough? Now, consciously, while you're not in the middle of it, while you're not in the action of it, that seems like a threatening statement. The belief is a real issue. It's not the procrastination. So we really have to uncover our core value of beliefs. So imagine all of the things that you don't want to pay attention to are in your scotoma. They're in that blind spot. What do you do to pay attention to that blind spot? You adjust your mirrors. You lean a little bit more. How many of you have ever asked, drop an A in the chat if you've ever asked somebody in the passenger seat, is it clear over there? Is it okay over there? That's what I'm going to do. That's what the mastermind will help do for each other. They will help in awareness. They will be working in harmony, asking people to challenge each other. See, most people have been part of a mastermind. Wasn't really a mastermind. It was called that so they could charge for it, but they never really had the people engaging and offering different perspectives. So today is about understanding how you move your blind spot. So I want you to write down where you feel resistance. A little exercise. Where you feel resistance or frustration. Could be with somebody significant in your life, could be with your business. But where do you feel resistance or frustration? Maybe it's something you've been avoiding, something you haven't achieved yet. For some people, it might be putting off a difficult conversation. Starting your dream board. Ask yourself, what belief is driving this behavior? I want you to just allow yourself, and if you need to, go into your sanctuary of undevelopment and achievement and present this goal to your sanctuary, into the universe inside your sanctuary, into the God source. And in this place where you ask these questions, where you can go to ask your questions, listen for the answer. What emotion do I feel when I think about this? And if you say, I don't feel anything, that's how deeply rooted it is. It has been able to mask any feeling of emotion about it. Do you want to be, listen, let me ask you this question. Do you want to have thoughts that have no emotions to them? Do you think it's possible to have thoughts that have no emotion? I don't care either way. What do you think drives that statement? I'm real serious about this, because when you understand what drives that statement, you may have some major breakthroughs as you start to look at the rest of your world. I don't care one way or the other. Either way, I'm fine. Are you avoiding an argument? Are you avoiding confrontation? Are you avoiding a dialogue that you're not going to get what you want anyway, so why even start? So what's the insight you get? I avoid conversations because I'm afraid of rejection. See, when you understand, much of goal achieving is equivalent to medication that only solves the temporary challenge. It avoids the root of correction. There was a study done 30 years ago, 20 years ago, by Dr. Michael Weintraub. And it was about peripheral neuropathy. And a network marketing company I was with actually participated in that study. And the only reason I'm telling you this is because it made a lot of sense to me to understand how to heal things. And the terminology that got used was, it showed root cause corrective actions. Root cause corrective actions. Which means it got at the root of the problem, not just the masking of the problem. If you're cold, you put on a jacket. That's not a root cause correction. You're cold, you move to Miami where it's 80 degrees. That's a correction. That's a root cause correction. You change the environment. So write down, I continually seek root cause corrections in my success. This making sense? We want to get after the root cause correction. The challenge is it's real easy to take an aspirin. And most people take an aspirin to increase vasodilation, to reduce, to allow blood flow to arrive at the situation, at the possible point of pain. So don't judge what comes up, just notice it. This is why I can have so much positive effect with somebody when we go back to a moment of trauma and we rewire it without bringing up the trauma. The goal is to not activate the amygdala and still go do the rewire. We can do that. What happens in our own awareness when we start to become myopic in our approach, we start to look at us. It's a lot easier to tell somebody about the splinter in their eye rather than focusing on the plank in our own. Does that make sense? So don't judge what comes up, just notice it. Awareness isn't about fixing everything right now. It's about shining a light on what's been hidden. I don't have to fix everything right now. I just need to become aware of what's hidden. So we're going to talk about reframing it. We've talked about reframing a couple of times now. Reframing is one of the most powerful tools you can have available to yourself. And in reframing, we still have the same picture. We just change the frame that it's around. How many of you have ever noticed curtains different in a house or blinds different in a house and it changed the whole room? How many of us have ever had to put on the, what's it called? The skirt that goes underneath the mattresses that hangs down. You change that, you got to change the whole stuff. You got to change everything. Look at the baby. Look at the grandbaby. Hello, grandbaby. Yay. So this idea that if we become aware of something, we can then decide whether it's a fit or not a fit. Does that make sense? If you're resisting making a phone call or to pitch an idea, the resistance is teaching you maybe that you fear rejection, but it's also showing you where your confidence needs to grow. This action isn't the enemy. The action isn't the enemy. Write that down. The action isn't the enemy. Fear is. The action isn't the enemy. The fear is. Making a phone call is not scary. It's the story we have around the phone call that makes it scary. Does that make sense? So become aware when you go to do something that starts to bring up the emotions or challenges. Say the action isn't the challenge. Right? Remember the box. Possibilities, P. Actions, A. Results, R. B. Beliefs, P. R. A. B. You have 100% possibility. You have 100% possibility in your actions, but what causes you to limit your actions? Addiction to approval. Fear. The action is not the enemy. The belief what happens when you do that action is the enemy. And then what happens is if your belief about that action is detrimental or negative, what kind of results do you think you have to prove the belief about that action? It doesn't do any good to set goals if you don't understand this symbiotic relationship. Just making sense? So here's the challenge of what to do today. Find an area in your life that where you feel resistance. You can look in your 5 pillars: family, finance, body, mind, society, or faith. 6. For me, there's a 6th one, faith. Which area are you most resistant? Are you resisting getting healthy? Are you resistant in your finances of getting up at the 5 a.m. club? Some of you have already mastered that. Are you resisting journaling? Are you resisting daily exercise? What are you resisting? Then write down the belief or fear you believe is driving that resistance. This really, it doesn't take long. It takes some intensity. What is the fear that is driving that resistance? What is the belief? And then you could ask, if you're in a quiet enough place, you can ask, who gave me that belief? Because you weren't born with this belief. You were born with a survival mechanism. That's pretty much it. What we've adapted and adopted over the years to keep us safe aren't probably true, aren't necessarily in our favor beliefs. Doesn't have to be a huge step. Small, consistent actions lead to big breakthroughs. Small, consistent actions lead to big breakthroughs. Does that make sense? So if you're avoiding a conversation, send a text. The question that I always ask my community is, are you ready for the love? That's what's on the other side of this, is love. Are you ready for the love? Is your personality ready to be loved, to be recognized, to be thanked? We say sometimes, oh, absolutely. And then I hear how you interact with people who want to love you, and you say things like, anybody want to guess what I'm about to say? You want to be loved, and then you go give to the world, and the world says thank you to you, and you say what? No problem. Exactly. You are not ready for the love. Well, I'm telling them it wasn't really a problem. That's not what they're hearing. They're hearing that it was a problem, but before them, you decided it wasn't a problem. Oh, don't worry about it. The answer to when somebody says thank you is you're welcome. How many of you, your responses, or how many of you know people, their responses, even when you thank them, they say, no problem. I work with Mason on that all the time. Thanks for your help, buddy. No problem. Mace, you're welcome. Yeah, no problems, no worries. Those are all negative. Those are all negative responses to somebody loving you. Wait, what? So start to pay attention to people when you say thank you to them. And if they say no problem, do not correct them. Because you will wind up in an argument of massive proportion that could change your relationship. Because this is a programming that they have wired into them. And they truly think it's no problem. But when you sit from the other side and you understand the power of each single word, when you understand the power of awareness, you will begin to see why people struggle in their own lives. And I'm looking at the conversion of something in Serbian, nothing to thank for. So you did nothing for them. Isn't that a lie? I don't know what to say then. You're welcome. You could even say Havala back. Thank you. Thank you. My privilege, my pleasure. We'll figure out what it is in the translation, but don't say that's no problem. There's nothing to thank me for. We even say that in no, you have nothing to thank me for. How inadequate, how trivial was the act of kindness that you did for them, that it was actually nothing. So if they think it's nothing, what do you think they're going to ask for nothing? But this is awareness. And this is how we move through our ideas. So it's not just about noticing. We'll finish up here this morning. It's about owning the truth of what's holding you back. Well, a comment, we would never say that in German. Excellent. Do you see how the culture has programmed you? Not saying it's wrong. They're pretty powerful and pretty productive country. But if somebody meets a German, don't they think they're a little standoffish, a little cold? They're right to the point. There's no messing around. It's like, tell me the problem and let's fix it and move on. So understanding that, this is about human nature. Okay. But you have to look at the responses that you've been wired with. When somebody says, thank you, I say, it's my privilege. Thank you for letting me offer. Thank you for letting me participate. They need to feel amazing that they asked for help. I love doing what we get to do together. But if you begin to look at what your awareness and these little truths and these little things, the way you respond to certain things, so there's a belief that Germans don't do that. So that's a belief. I'm German, I wouldn't do that. That's a belief. And so you can either continue to use that belief if it serves you and it serves your mission, then outstanding. And if you can tweak it or change it or upgrade it or adopt a new one or adopt a new thing, that's what makes you stand out, right? How many of us know about attorneys? And if somebody's in a group, I have a lot of attorneys in the mastermind I'm in with Kyle Wilson. And we giggle when they say, I'm a recovering attorney. Why do we giggle when they say that? I'm a recovering attorney. There's other people who went all through law school, but never took the bar exam. Their mind operates in a certain way. When somebody says, I'm an attorney, do you instantly perceive that individual as something different? How about if they define it even more? I'm a divorce attorney. I'm a trial attorney. I'm a criminal attorney. I'm a business attorney. They're all attorneys, but do you look at one of them differently because of the identification they have with it? And that's all I'm asking you to do is as you become aware of your beliefs, and you start to put them into buckets. There's two kinds of beliefs, ones that move you forward and ones that keep you stuck, period. End of story. Somebody type in the chat how many emotions we've discovered we're aware of. And when you know this number, 35,000 emotions, you use 100? Do you use 100 emotions in a day? Exhilarated. Put a smile on your face right now as if you were exhilarated. So what made you change into this exhilarated? Aren't you working towards your goals? This might hurt a little. If you're working towards your goals, wouldn't it make sense? You're exhilarated, you're excited, you're passionate. What does a focused face look like? Move it into your body. What does an ecstatic body feel like? What does an energetic body feel like? See, if you start to become aware of the way your body is feeling, imagine if you were a reporter. How many of us can tell when our dogs are happy? How many of us can tell when a dog is sad? Cats, I don't know. I don't know if you can tell them anything. But dogs, and if you can see how a dog is happy, isn't it their body telling you? How many of you show up to your business presentation and you look like you're constipated or have diarrhea or you just threw up in your mouth? Hi, I'm so nice. I'm excited to talk to you about my business model. Are you ready? I have a pre-event routine. This is an event. If I'm walking across, I go see the dogs. I say good morning to all of the dogs. That's here. That's the routine I get to use. I'll find all of the dogs that are around and go give them hugs and talk to them. And I just talk to them. I don't tell them I'm getting ready to go do a presentation. Give me all your energy. They do it anyways. In the mornings I don't get to see them, you guys know it. So if you want what you want, you're going to have to learn the term mastery. Are you a master awareness expert? See, what makes me a little bit better than the average bear as far as communication is I've mastered the art of dialogue. I've mastered the art of intentional listening. Getting better, but I'm better than most. I've mastered the art of hearing what you're not saying. I've mastered the art of hearing what you're asking without asking. Your business is going to require you to become a master of awareness. That's why we're spending so much time on it. Are you aware of the shoes they're wearing? Are you aware of what hand they write with? Are you aware of, do they have glasses or contacts? Are you aware of what's their breathing like? Are you aware of their body language? Just the simple fact that somebody folds their arms doesn't, oh, they're negative right now. That doesn't mean that. You have to understand the pattern with which they use their body language to speak to you. The tone of their voice, the speed with which they communicate. If they're talking really fast all the time and they really like to talk fast and in their talking fast, sometimes they get loud and sometimes they get soft, but there's really fast. See, there's no space in between those words for them to hear you. So when I talk to somebody who really talks fast, because of the phenomenon of mirror neurons, I will slow down my conversation almost to a point of agitation. The reason is it gets them to focus. Now, they may be finishing my sentences. That's okay. I'm here for a particular goal. I'm here to sell. And the selling is the transference of enthusiasm. And if I can sell enthusiasm, they can buy new ideas. So yes, you have to sell for them to buy. Yesterday, we talked about let them teach you how they want to buy. You have to do that by giving them fuel to buy, and that's called enthusiasm. So become aware today. Become aware of what you're doing inside the school community. Underneath Cognitive Codex, there's day 2. There's a workbook there, little worksheet there. You can work that out. What you're finding is that you're not going to have, if you use the materials that I share with you, you're not going to have a whole lot of time to be diluting this conversation with 17 other gurus and masterminds and books and trainings and tapes. You can, But all I know is that if you try to spin too many plates, they'll eventually all come crashing down. So you have to make a decision. You're either in the boat or out of the boat. Either way is fine. Just make a decision. But don't let this dilute all of your other stuff if you're going to continue to do all a whole bunch of other things. I am constantly investigating others' information to find one nugget. And once I find that nugget, because I can't do a whole lot with 10 nuggets, I can write them down and store them. But if it's a nugget that's pertaining to what I'm particularly working on, that's called reticular activating system, I take that nugget and I go build my stuff. So just some thoughts. So YouTube, I appreciate you. You can go to seanschool.com, and you can learn more and look at all of the content that's in there. There's probably, I don't know, we just did The Decision of Self. It's an 18-part series. There's over 20 hours of content in that Decision of Self. One of the more powerful trainings that I've done. And it was to help you set up your 2025. So go check that out. It's right there inside of the classroom at SeanSchool.com. SKOOL. We'll see you where?